Welcome to all of you that are here with us today. So we've got some joining us on Zoom and some joining us on Facebook. So we're really excited to have all of you here today. My name is Stephanie McLaughlin. I am the Training and Evaluation Specialist with the Partners Resource Network. Partners Resource Network is the nonprofit agency that operates the Texas statewide network of parent training and information centers. We're funded through the Department of Education, Office of Special Education. So our PTI projects here in Texas are PATH, PIN, and T. We empower and support our Texas families and individuals impacted by disabilities and special healthcare needs. So welcome. We also have on with us today, Katrina Henning. She is our Director of Statewide Services for the Partners Resource Network. And our special guest speakers today, I want to introduce them and then turn it over to them. Before I introduce them, if you've got some questions, if you're on Zoom, you can put that in our chat box and we'll answer those at the end. If you're on Facebook Live, go ahead and leave a comment. We're going to be checking that for questions as well. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have Layne Pethick. He is an autism spectrum disorder and behavior consultant for the Region 10 Education Service Center. Layne has his Ph.D. in business organization leadership and a master's degree in special education with a concentration in autism spectrum disorder and emotional behavioral disorders, along with degrees in elementary education, early childhood education, and reading. Layne has experience as a general and special education teacher, as school administrator, a district trainer, a program director, and in higher education as a professor of special education, assessment, early childhood, and teacher education. He has had several articles published and presents at the local, state, and national and international levels. He has and continues to work with various countries in the areas of education and special education, including Mexico, Hong Kong, Canada, Vietnam, and all across the United States. So welcome, Layne. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
We also have presenting with us today, Katrina Mathis. She is a behavior consultant for the Region 10 Education Service Center. She has her bachelor's degree in rehabilitation and a master's degree in special education. This is her 20th year of experience working with students with disabilities, including working in a residential treatment center as a certified special education teacher and home parent trainer and coach supporting teachers in self-contained settings. She is especially passionate about supporting teachers and families of students with intensive behavioral and academic needs. So welcome, Katrina. We're so happy to have both of you, and we're going to turn it over to you to present today.
Thank you very much. It is actually a pleasure to be here again. Now, this is my second time doing something with the Parent Network, and it's always a pleasure to do things to help out parents. So Katrina and I both looked at some basic tips to get started. Since this is kind of the first round and we're just looking at getting some things going, we decided to take a look at helping give you some ideas for setting routines and structure in the home, and then just some basics of behavior. And so I'll let Katrina explain a little bit more too to get started.
All right, do we want to go into our agenda? So we're going to start out with ideas for structure and routines in the home, and then we're going to go over some behavior basics, some things to consider, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So starting out, we're going to talk about the schedules and routines. And I first want to start out by saying kudos to all you parents, because you are having to make this transition from your parent role to a teacher role. And that's really difficult. And that puts you in a hard place. And so we want to support you as much as we can. And that's something that is we're going to try to help you with this. So we want to talk about the schedules and routines. You're used to having your child come home from school and you have your home routine. And now you're having to switch that as you're going into academic learning online into your home, into your school, transitioning to a school schedule. So we want to help you with that by giving you these resources. This link here on the screen. It gives you lots of free printable visual schedules for the home. Some of your children might need pictures, other ones might need a written schedule. It's whatever is going to work best for you. You probably have seen things that your teachers have provided and that they are using in the classroom. You could make something similar to that to help so that your child just knows what we're going to be doing when. Making it more predictable is going to help with some of those behavior issues. It's also going to let them know what to expect next. We want to make sure that you post the schedule where you and your child can access it, and then plan the schedule and routine that you and your child can stick to. This is going to be a little bit different because you guys are working as teachers and as parents. I know many of you are still trying to work from home, so you really need to give yourself grace and know this is not going to be perfect. It's going to be trial and error. And that's the same thing that your teachers are doing when they're working with your children at school. Nothing goes right the first time. This is really hard for all of us. We were just talking about this, that not going to schools is difficult for us. So imagine how it is for our students who are used to going and having that routine. So that's something different. I heard from a parent the other day who their student was having a really hard time understanding that, and they finally had to take them and drive them to the school and show them there's no one is here. No, that's why we can't go to school. So we're going to try to make it work as well as we can in the home. So we really want to help you get some of those routines in place. Layne, do you want to add anything to that?
I just want to help parents understand that you do really, I think the big word I've shared with parents this last week that I've talked to is you got to give yourself some grace. It's progress, not perfection. The best you can and just try and do a little bit better the next day. It's really a tough go when you got to make that transition. As schedules go, the more predictable you make your child's life, the less stress they experience. And lowering that stress does help behaviors tenfold. I've even resorted to helping a parent figure out that they didn't have access to a printer. They didn't really have access to online materials. I mean, they could use their phone to look at things. That was about it. And so what we did is we just discussed how to take a dry erase marker and had a stainless steel fridge. And we just had them write a schedule on the stainless steel fridge with a dry erase marker and make pictures to help represent it. And that way their child got involved making it too. So those are just simple ideas you can do. You don't have to have fancy. You can just have something that helps you and your child get through the day just one step at a time. And it's a different routine for a lot of parents, especially if you're still trying to work from home like a lot of us are trying to do.
Right. I think that's a really good point, to give the student choices and to let them be a part of that, they help you build that. And that's going to make them more likely to follow it too. The other thing that I know Layne experienced the other day when working with a parent is that the parent had a full schedule up and the student wasn't really following it. And Layne had to talk to them about, we have to take tiny steps. So it may be that we have to do the first and the second thing and then build from there. So it's taking those little steps and moving on. That's the same thing with the academics, because that's a difficult thing for you guys as well. And we just want to let you know that whatever you can do, you're going to be good. So whatever, take little pieces, you might have to chunk it, whatever you can do to help them work on those academics, because that's putting you in a different place. But that's something that you just need to give, like Layne said, give yourself grace and let yourself feel okay with what you're doing. It's going to be a process. It's going to take some time to build up to get everything taken care of. Layne, what is our next one? So we don't want to forget flexibility. We Want to try to be as consistent as possible, because like Layne said, that predictability is going to help ground our students and our children. It's going to help them with the behavior. But we want to also make sure that we are flexible, because things are going to happen that we are going to have to deal with changes. So we want to make sure that we are consistent to a point, but that we're also flexible. So we want to be able to prepare them for changes in the routine. Definitely build time for movement. It is hard. We were just talking about, for us, like I said, because we're used to being out in the field, we are used to being out with kids. Sitting here is very difficult for us. It's difficult for your kiddos too. So make sure that you're getting out and doing some movement activities. There's lots of activities on YouTube. You can search YouTube for different yoga activities, for Go Noodle, for a lot of different things that will also help you with the art and music. So make sure that you're planning in some fun activities there, as well as some quiet time. We're all going to need downtime. And especially for you guys as parents, when you are having to get your work time in too, I wouldn't feel bad about having an educational video and letting your child have some quiet time so that you can get some of your needs taken care of as well. And that goes into that considering your needs as parents. And I know we're going to talk about that more, the self-care part of it, when we go into the behavior section.
And I think I'd like to add on this one too, parents, caregivers. I mean, I understand in light of everything that's going on in the world, whoever the caregiver is for the child, especially school-age children, movement is huge. The part actually engages their brain and actually helps them sort through a lot of different things. So as much movement as you can incorporate. I share with parents a lot of times, there's a time limit for how long children can sit still before their body tells their brain it has to move. So how it works is everything from the neck down is the motor for the neck up. And so when everything from the neck down sits, it takes about three minutes for adults to get the signal that we're sitting too still and we got to move so our brain can get re-engaged. The fun part with our kids, it's about 30 seconds. So about 30 seconds after a child is sitting down at work, their body is sending a message to their brain saying, hey, you got to move because we're not going to work too well if you don't. And so just incorporating, like letting them sit up and get down, different ways to sit, let them fidget with something, different things that allow that movement to occur, because that's what their brain needs in order to stay engaged in whatever tasks it is that they're doing. A lot of the things that we talked about on here, especially with parents too, about your needs, we'll talk a little bit more about. But you got to incorporate some activities in there. The flexibility, people always say, well, we got consistency. How do we build in flexibility? And I tell people a lot of times, so let's say part of your schedule is free time. Within that free time, it's a consistent time a day, but within that free time, your child has different choices to choose from. And there's some flexibility in what they do. We found out that you put a schedule on a dry erase board, or like we just kind of made up the other day, just take a dry erase marker, put it on a fridge. You can erase and rearrange the schedule if things come up. Parents, those of you who are working from home and you get phone calls, you get all this stuff. If your child knows that there's a schedule up and you can kind of switch it somewhat quickly and draw their attention to it, it kind of brings them back to getting back on track rather than just kind of sideswiping them out of the blue with things. So there's just different little things that you just trial and error for a lot of it. So, and quiet time is good. Just time to breathe, time to relax. Do what you need to do just to bring some calmness back into the world, because there's a lot of anxiety in the world right now. And your children are feeding off of your anxiety too. So anything you guys can do to bring yourselves down in any way is a good thing for you and your children. So.
Yes, definitely building in that quiet downtime is going to be helpful, because if they know that that break is coming, that's going to help them get through whatever it is that you're working on them with right then. So just anticipating that. So like Layne said, having that scheduled is really, really good. Also, something that is near and dear to my heart is knowing when we're going to eat. So that's something I have to let them know. And I've seen some really cool things on Facebook and on Pinterest, and I've seen that. And I know with my own son, we're eating everything that's available. So I've seen some parents that have made snack baskets and given their children the choice in the morning. What is it that you want to have for snack later on? We're going to go ahead and put that in the basket. It's here. We know it's here. We know we're going to have it, and then schedule that time in. So, you know, Layne, I have to talk about food.
Yeah, it's important about food because the food is the energy we need too. And I know kids, me, I think I've snacked more in the last 2 weeks than I've ever snacked in my life. I will share something, and before we continue on with the behavior stuff, and this parents goes to the academic side. You schedule in your academic times with your kids as best you can. Just a word of advice, I guess, is to give you. You just really, like Katrina said earlier, do the best you can. Sometimes if you're getting work fed into you from your schools, if there's not access to online teachers teaching it right away, and it's up to you to kind of fill in as teacher, please understand that if at any time you got to give your child an academic task to work on by themselves while you go off and do your work, or while you just need a break to go off and refill your coffee, please understand that any kind of academic task you're going to leave your child with to do independently actually has to be something you know they can do by themselves. Mm-hmm. If there's something that you're giving them academically that you know they're going to struggle with, they're going to need your attention for it. They're going to need your attention for the whole thing. So a lot of times when you're doing academic, you may have to find an activity that you already know they know how to do, but it's something they can do by themselves, and it's an independent task, just to help, you know, follow up with skills they've already got in place, just to make sure they're still practicing some things that they already know. So that's just some advice. I know some parents I've talked to are getting kind of overwhelmed with all the things coming into them from schools, from everything else, and I just ask that you sort through and look at what is, here's the big word of the day, what is feasible for you to do at home. You got to have some feasibility in this. There's a young man I know, he just got in some work packets, and there's like 50 worksheets in each packet. It's not feasible for him to do all of those while his mom is doing work, while everything else is. So we help just try to sort through what's important, pick out some things that are important, and just do the best you can. That's kind of what everybody in the world is doing right now. Everybody's just doing the best they can, and we got to kind of give ourselves a lot of grace. So that's just something I wanted to bring up with the academic side. So Katrina, do you want to add anything else with schedules?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah,
and
parents.
We also have some resources that we'll share with you at the end.
So I was trying to go back so they could see some of the websites we put up there and everything else.
Yes, so that first website has, and when you get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to click on it. That has already made schedules for home. Lots of different free ones that are good to use. And then the bottom link, that is a article on how to settle into a new home routine. And it actually has it has a planner that you can use when you're making your schedule. Okay.
And so for the last few minutes that we get to talk to you guys, they had asked us to talk a bit about behavior and behavior management. Parents, I can only be honest with you at this point. It's more important you understand your child's behavior than it is to manage it. You can't manage or help in any way until you understand some things. I know there's going to be future webinar or Zoom meetings and Facebook Lives coming up through the PRN. And they're going to dive more into specifics about behavior. But I thought for us for today, I think just to help parents just understand your children a little bit more in times like this and what's going on. And so we just put together a few different things for you to consider. when you're looking at your child's behavior. And please don't think you're alone. There's lots of parents out there that, you know, kids, but sometimes it's hard to like them when they're doing certain things, when we're trying to do stuff. And that's just the reality of it. And it's just part of being a parent. I'll be the first one to admit, there are plenty of times that educational video got popped in just to give me reprieve, not to work, just to give me some sanity for 15 minutes. That's okay. It's okay. So if you take a look at some behavior basics, my big thing for this, and Katrina too, was just helping you get some understanding of what you might be dealing with at the home. So a lot of it, if you look at, the first thing I want to start with is your expectations for your child's behavior. Are your expectations developmentally appropriate? Not just age appropriate, but developmentally also. So if your child does have different abilities, as we say, is what you're expecting appropriate for their ability level and for their age level? Most 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds are not going to sit for 20 minutes to do schoolwork completely still. There's going to be some movement. There's going to be something in place there. Their reactions to stressors, their ability to think through their emotions and deal with their emotions. Just so you all know, their parents, the human brain actually is not really set up to truly analyze and think about its emotional state until about 19 to 20. So below that, what every human being needs is an adult who knows how to help me understand what's going on and teach me how to cope to it better. And so if you don't have the correct expectations for your child's behavior, you actually might be making, your responses to the behavior might actually be making things worse. As I tell people and parents, you can't fix 3. 3 is 3. And there's behaviors that go with 3-year-olds that is just perfectly normal. But if you're trying to push them beyond that limit, you may actually, or if your expectations are beyond a certain limit, you might actually create more problems than anything else. So just take a look. And if you ever need information on that, feel free to contact us and we can get you some information. So is there anything you want to add to that, Katrina?
No, not to the expectations.
Understanding feelings kind of goes along with the parent expectations. For those of us who work a lot with children, especially children with behavior struggles, a lot of it is they just understand what they're feeling. They have a hard time understanding what feelings are. And a lot of times, just as a parent, some advice is when your child's mad, validate that they're mad. I understand you're mad right now, and try and figure out why they're mad and what's making them upset. If they can't communicate with you very well, then it takes a lot of observing on our part to see what might be the trigger that is making them upset. And then we have to figure out why that's making them upset and how do we readjust and help teach them some self-regulation or coping mechanisms to it. Some adult response and managing emotions. This is for us adults, and this goes for all of us, me included. We adults have to be good at self-regulation and coping before we can teach our children. And that means you have to sit back, and before you can actually really assist on a behavior, how are your behaviors? What are your triggers? Parents, so anyone sitting with us today, I can't see your faces. I wish I could. It makes it easier to talk when I can see faces, but I'm pretending that you're all smiling still. But what I want y'all to think about too is you have to sit back and think during your quiet time, how do I manage my emotions? What sets me off? What's my trigger? What makes me upset? And then as you have those triggers come into your life through the day, what are you doing to self-regulate and cope with it? And so because that part actually is a big teaching component for your kids too. Ironically, sometimes our kids don't listen to us, they watch us. And they watch how we manage our emotions too. The last thing I'll add to that, and anyone who knows me knows I'm all about the brain stuff. Parents, any adult in this room who's listening in, if you're working with children right now, especially in this high stress world we got, adult stress will affect children's brain chemistry within 8 to 15 minutes. So any stress you carry, no matter what it is, You have about 8 to 15 minutes to get yourself regulated and right before you start affecting the brain chemistry of all the kids that you're with. Kids carry stress and they take the stress off of us and it affects them. It's a behavior effect first. It's off that amygdala side of them, the fight, flight, or freeze. It ramps up their stressors. And so that's why it's important for us as adults just to know how to breathe and relax. Things are kind of wonky and crazy in the world right now. Even for Katrina and I, we were talking earlier, we're stressing out because we're used to being out working with kids right now, and not having access to work with kids and teachers and parents is a stressor for us. And it's weird to not kind of be somewhat quarantined. And that adds to our stress, just like parents, it adds to yours. So it's a big thing to start looking at, what can I do to help myself with my stress? And there's a lot to go into that. There's a lot more to talk about that, but I just wanted to bring this up for everyone out there to start thinking about as adults, because it starts with us adults when it comes to our kids. So I look at Katrina thinking I'm talking too much. She can
No, you're doing good.
One of the things I always tell people too is look at the world through child's eyes. What are they seeing? Yes, I know they're standing in front of you screaming because they want goldfish or something, but look at it through their eyes. What is it that they're truly trying to get across, and what are they doing? Well, how are they seeing this world that they're in right now? And how do I learn to get through some of these tough times? And so a lot of it is just children are not very good at managing their emotions. It's just where the brain is at that point. And what they rely on is they rely on us to teach them the right ways to get through difficult times, and to start teaching them through, teaching them about the world and how things work in different ways. So I just put that in there because sometimes when I'm getting frustrated with children or whatever, I have to stop and think. It's like, well, how are they seeing the world right now? How are they viewing everything going on? I see mommy and daddy, or I see family freaking out. Everybody's stressed out. Everybody's on edge. I don't understand why. That's a scary place to be for some of our kids. The understanding isn't there. And so when an adult comes over and walks me through it and helps me through it, it may help me understand more. Believe it or not, logic is actually the best thing to do for behavior, especially for school-age kids. So just be logical and tell me.
I think the other thing to keep in mind that goes along with the stress part of it and with this part is because of the stress level, and it may not show, like Layne said, on our children, but it's there. That's also going to affect their processing. So when we're talking to them and when we're giving them directions, we can't expect things to happen right then. We might need to give a little bit more processing time.
And one thing to consider too, I tell this too, all of us adults period, have a superpower. I just finished telling you it takes us about 10 to 15 minutes to share our stress and affect our kids. We can share our calmness right away. If we're calm, that calmness actually gets stolen by your children right away. They may not calm down right away, but they are stealing bits of it every second they're around you. And that calmness is helping their body get regulated back to what it needs to be. And so that's just something to think about too. Parents, a little tidbit, because I've been there as a parent, you're just absolutely frustrated with your kids and you're not getting calm anytime soon. And 15 minutes is nowhere near enough time to get you where you need to be. And be honest with your kids. Tell them, look, mom or dad's upset right now. I'm really having a hard time and I'm really getting kind of angry and I'm really mad. Be honest with how you're feeling too, and share that with your children, because it actually shows them it's okay to feel that way. And here's a better way to deal with it. There's not a problem.
It also gives them that name. It gives that label for that feeling and that emotion when you model it that way. Yeah.
So I know we're quickly running out of time, so we'll wrap this up quick. Behavior is communication. I always tell people this. Every time I see behavior in anybody, I always wonder, what is it trying to tell us? Mm-hmm. Your kids, the reason why you get some of the bigger behaviors is because they're trying to tell you something that's super important, but they just don't have the means verbal means right now to do it or any other means to show you it. They just know, I got to tell you something, this is going on, and this is the way I'm going to do it. So sorry about the chair coming at your head, but just duck rope. I'm trying to tell you something. And then a couple of things to wrap it up. Parents, caregivers, teachers, all of us out there, we are in this together. Parents, you and your child are a team. Think about it that way. You are together in this, and you're a team. And when one of your teammates is having a problem, we need to help them figure it out. So you're kind of co-problem solvers. Life is throwing things at us left, right, and center this last couple of weeks. You and your child are problem solvers together. How do we get through this? How do we manage this? How do we deal with this together? Because you guys really are a team. You're a great team. And
I think part of that too is we're all a team. So also your child's teacher is going to be there for you. So they're going to be there to help support you. You can reach out to your educational service center and get assistance through there too. Our Region 10, we are offering virtual behavioral help sessions for our parents and teachers. So that's something that is going to help give us build together as a team so that we can show that we're there for you and can help you with those things.
All of us are smarter than one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put at the end there, it's okay. And so parents, I share with you a piece of advice I was given when I had my children. And this is what it is. In the end, everything is okay. And if it's not okay right now, we're just not at the end. We'll get there. And so I know there's probably questions. I can't see anything on my screen because I have this up, but we got a few resources to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have access to all of these. There's just lots out there. Parents, you're going to get inundated with all kinds of stuff. Katrina and I really just wanted to give you just some things to think about today. Not everything out there is good for you to use. You have to kind of use some logic and just some common sense in regards to who your child is to see what's going to happen best. And so there's some information about sped text if you have any questions or anything. This will all be sent to you guys.
Yes.
That's what we got.
Yeah, we shared the link to that both in the chat on the Zoom and on the Facebook Live. And I will finish posting the links as soon as we get through the Q&A. For those that are wondering, I do have a couple of questions. I'm handling the Facebook Live questions. Stephanie's going to handle the ones through the Zoom chat. I have a question from a parent who wants to know the best way to explain to young children that we need to keep social distance. My daughter really wants to play with the neighbor child who is even younger than she is, and I'm having a hard time explaining that to her.
And the way that we can do that is through social stories. And actually, if we back up one slide on our, no, that's going forward, but that's a good one. If we go back one slide to our resources, on that left-hand side, there are resources for coronavirus social stories. And there's actually a couple of them that have good explanations for social distancing. So that might be something to help give them a visual to go with that and kind of an easy explanation.
And there is also a lot of things too that I had mentioned earlier. Just be logical with your children, explain to them. You realize that a lot of things we're having our kids do right now goes against all the things we've been telling them not to do for our whole life. You know, be nice, be friendly with people, whatever. Now we're like, stay away. You got to give your kids some time to figure this out too. It's going to take, especially if they're young, it's going to take them a long time to try and figure out why all of a sudden all the adults are keeping me away from my friends. And before you were telling me get outside and play with my friends. And so the constant reminders every time they ask, or even when they don't ask, just talk about, remember when we go outside, we can't get close to our friends because, and just tell them why. A lot of times we keep things from our kids because we're scared they don't understand. And we forget that a lot of our kids understand way more than we give them credit for. So.
All right, we do have one question on Zoom. So the question is there a creative way to track behavior and social emotional goals virtually?
Well, there's probably lots of ways. I can actually share a basic data tracking sheet for parents to use that's really simple. It's just causes to do a check mark in a box if you want to track different behaviors of your kiddos throughout this whole process. You can do lots of Google searches for things like that online. It just depends on the behaviors you're trying to track and what you're trying to do with them also. So there's lots of ways to do it, and we have lots of ideas. I know Katrina's got tons of things that she's used too. So just so y'all know that, even though we have to end this here eventually, anything that we can do to help, let us know too. So.
That Centervention, that middle link there, that has some different activities that can go for behavior and social emotional learning too. So that might tie into some of your behavior goals that you're working on.
We do have a comment. A parent commented that A Day in Our Life has a good tracker available as well on their website.
Okay, A Day in Our Life. Okay.
Yeah, anything people got out there in the world to share with us, we're all for it too, because we're not the end all be all for stuff. We're still learning things too as we go along. So parents, I would suggest if your children are able to get them involved in tracking their own behaviors too.
And she corrected, it's A Day in Our Shoes. Sorry. A Day in Our
Shoes. A Day in Our Lives. Is that a soap opera?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't have any more questions on Facebook Live right now, Stephanie, other than will this be available for parents to share the video? And yes, it will. Once we end the broadcast, it'll save as a video on our Facebook Live page, and it'll have a link and you can share it with your friends or family that need this information. Lots of thank yous to Layne and Katrina. Thank you.
Thank everybody out there for us, please. Just everybody take care of yourselves. We're all going to get through this. We've all learned a lot of lessons by this coming around, and just be there for your kids. And if you ever need anything, Katrina and I are both here for you. So.
Thank you so much, Katrina and Layne. I just want to remind everyone that this was the first in our series of Facebook Lives. So we're going to have another one tomorrow on Thursday, March 26th at 2:00, again on Facebook Live. This one's going to be on mental health and behavioral concerns that some of our families may be facing in light of the school closures. So be sure and join us again tomorrow at 2:00 for the next in our series that we're doing. So thank you all for being here again, and reach out to us if there's anything we can do to help you.
Thank you guys so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And remember, the word of the day is grace. Give yourself and give your kids some grace. It's okay.
Did y'all want to share your last slide real quick?
Oh yeah, we'll get to it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I was like too many buttons to push.
No, this is our slide for all of our superhero parents out there.
Parents out there, wear the cape proud.
Go ahead.
I said, for all the parents out there, all of you, you're superheroes. You just got to wear your cape proud. Be
Definitely.
Proud.
Definitely.
Especially in times like this.
That link to an article that's written by one of the superhero parents, and it's really nice. It's really nice how it puts things into perspective.
And it's a great article for all parents. It's great for parents of children with special needs, but especially all parents. It's a great, great article that Katrina had shared with y'all. So
definitely check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna wrap this stream.